Mr. Mayor, I can see you've just joined us. Everyone is muted and we're ready to go live. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. It is 7 o'clock, everyone, and welcome to this meeting on Zoom. It's unfortunate we're on Zoom and not in person. Hopefully next month we'll be back in person again. I'd just like to welcome everyone and call this meeting to order and just remind everybody that we are recording this and it will be put on social media and to our website. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We have the confirmation of minutes, recommendation that the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on December 14, 2021 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda package. Moved by Councillor Martin or Douglas, second by Councillor Craven. Thank you. Anybody opposed? And that's carried. Moving on to item number 4.2, council workshop. Recommendation of the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council workshop on the minimum maintenance standards held on December 14, 2021 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda package. You want to be moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor Ottens. Thank you. Anybody opposed? Then that's carried as well. We don't have any matters arising from the minutes, so we'll get into our Planning Act. So we are the Committee of the Planning Act, and we have here the first one is item 6.1. And this is a public meeting under the Planning Act to hear comments from the public and agencies and to give consideration to an application ZBA 2021-17 for proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The subject lands are located at 7200 and 7204 Wellington Road 10. And the purpose and effect is to rezone two existing lots to provide relief from the MDS 1 setback requirements to allow for a single detached dwelling on each lot. And now, Mr. Clerk, for the statutory requirements, please.
Thank you, sir. Staff can confirm all regulatory notices were completed as per page 20 of tonight's agenda package.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. And we'll now hear from our planner, Linda Redmond. Happy New Year, Linda. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year to you and everybody. So I'm just heads up, I'm working off my little laptop. I have my screen split, so I'm reading from that. I don't have my papers in front of me because I'm working from home, so I might have to turn my screen off. But anyways, this zone amendment application, the council has seen this before with the lots that are adjacent to this one. There's a number of lots along this road that are old checkerboard lots. These are two more of those. They currently have a zoning restriction placed on them that requires them to meet certain criteria before they can be built on. One of the criteria is MDS calculation or MDS setbacks. The lands are zoned agriculture and are in the Primag area, and the MDS setback requirement that they can't meet is for the barn that is directly across the road from their lots. So the zone amendment before you is to give them relief from those two, from that barn, from the MDS, and allow them to build a house on the two lots. The properties that are adjacent to it have received the MDS relief already a couple years ago. So this is just a continuation of that, and that would conclude, like, that's the end of the lots at this end. So any other checkerboard lots are further south of this property, and they do not impact the barn at all. So we have no concerns with the request, and we recommend approval.
Thank you, Linda. And yes, of course, we've seen the other ones come forward, and we have talked about MDS on the other ones and the restrictions of that. Does the owner, Sheila Trask, have comments? Sheila, do you have any further comments? You're on mute.
There we go.
There you go.
Hi. No, just I guess just looking to see what comes of this meeting and the MDS relief application, as well as the size application.
All right. Thank you, Sheila.
Oh, thanks.
Are there any comments from those in attendance? Please indicate so and state your name and address for the record. We will first hear from those in support of the zoning amendment. Is there anybody wishing to speak in support of the zoning amendment? Is there anybody here wishing to speak against the zoning amendment? Then we'll open it up to council. Questions from council? If there are any. Councillor Craven?
Yeah, I assume the barn that's, these other lots have already been compromised by the lots that are already there. So I assume that this one doesn't make much change as far as that's concerned. And one other thing I've asked about this before, with the river just down below, is there any problem with the increased number of lots there with sewage getting away from these lots and not getting down and affecting the river?
Linda?
Through you, Mayor. Just your first question, Councillor Craven, with respect to the existing properties. The barn, you're right, the barn is already constrained by an actual property that is on the same side of the road as the barn. There's a house really close to the barn currently. So it is constrained by that property, but we still have to look at the MDS setbacks to, you know, any other potential homes that are within a certain distance of that barn. So that's what we've done here. With respect to the sewage, Patty might be able to weigh in on this as well, but the GRCA will have to approve the location of the septic and the house in relation to where they regulate their lands at the back there. So there are certain requirements that they would have to satisfy for the GRCA. There is setback requirements in the zoning bylaw as well from the natural environment area on the property for a dwelling and its related services, which would be your septic and well. So there are setback provisions in place that I would expect would factor in that consideration in terms of the leaching and the flow that comes from those uses.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Very good explanation. Further questions or comments? Then the public meeting I will now conclude, and thank you for attending the public meeting. I do have a recommendation here for council. The recommendation is that the planning report regarding ZBA 2021-17 Trask Part Lot 9 Concession 10 parcels 26 and 28 7200 and 7204 Wellington Road 10 be received for information. I need a mover, please. Councillor Douglas, Councillor Otten's a seconder. Anybody opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to our next planning application. And this is a public meeting under the Planning Act to hear comments from the public and agencies to give consideration to an application ZBA 2021-18 and 19 for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Subject lands are located at 73272 and 7374 Wellington Road 11. And the purpose and effect is to rezone the two existing lots to provide relief from the MDS 1 setback requirements to allow for a single attached dwelling on each lot. We will now hear from Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff can confirm that all regulatory notices were completed as per required. They are on the agenda, page 40. However, the planning coordinator received the neighbors' comments after publication of the agenda, which will now be read into the minutes. The letter is from Dave and Rachel Vandenberg of Brookview Poultry on January 6th. The letter is in response to the amendment application. It follows, I have no objection to the request to rezone lots 18 and 19 concession 12. However, I wish to safeguard our farming operation to ensure not limit further opportunity for future development. The poultry industry in Ontario continues advancing, resulting in significant changes to infrastructure requirements. Some of the changes include reduction to antibiotics, additional growing space allowing for lower densities, and the one that will continue affecting our operation in a significant way is advancing animal welfare regulation, forcing producers to adapt or replace barns to adapt to modular loading. For these reasons, it is inevitable that in the future we will need to replace our older barn to ensure that we can continue meeting welfare guidelines and thus maintain our livelihood. Due to this reality, my request is that future buildings on the proposed properties will be no closer to the farm buildings on our property than the dwelling of 8002 Concession 12. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Planner Redmond. We'll hear from you now.
Thank you, Mayor. So council might recognize this property. It was before your council last fall for the actual consent application. So these two properties applied for a lot line adjustment for each property to create a lot in the middle of these two. So the end result is that there is going to be 3 lots there when the consent applications are finally approved. It was approved in principle, and as a condition of the approval, they are required to fulfill the MDS requirements, which cannot be met from the barn on the Vandenberg's property. So this application is to recognize that the lots cannot meet the MDS setbacks and give them relief from that essentially. So we have no concerns with this. We were supportive of the consents. Council was supportive of the consents. So now they're just coming back to fulfill that condition. So we have no concerns with them.
Thank you, Linda. And I believe Haley is here. Haley, would you like to speak for the applicant?
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm Haley Keese from Van Harten Surveying. I'm here to represent our client, Tim Harten. And Tim is also in attendance tonight. Yeah, I don't have too much else to add. Linda summarized it well. The one thing I would like to mention is that we did receive the comment from the neighbors, Dave Vandenberg. And I spoke with the owner, Tim Martin, and he is in agreement with the suggestion or the request that that Dave made, so that the new houses wouldn't be any closer to the property line than the neighboring house at 8002 Concession 12. I just did a quick aerial image and got a distance or a measurement for that setback, and it was around 28 meters, give or take. But anyways, I just wanted to clarify that Tim is okay with that. So hopefully that makes the Vandenbergs happy. And yeah, Tim's here if there's any questions, and also myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from those in attendance? Please indicate so and state your name and address for the record. We will first hear from those in support of the zoning amendment. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in support of the zoning amendment? And we'll move on to those in oppose. Is anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to the zoning amendment? Questions from members of council then? To the applicant or to our planner? Councillor Douglas.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Probably a question for Linda. I'm just wondering, with this setback that the Vandenbergs have requested, does that get registered on title, or how does that get enforced down the road?
For you, Mayor, it would be we could add it as part of their site-specific exemption. So we could add it that the MDS is not an issue, but also we can ask for a required setback to the dwellings. Currently, the setback for any new dwellings would be approximately 18.3 meters plus another 15. So what's that, 33.5 meters from the center line of the road. So I did a quick calculation and a setback, and it's that minimum setback would not put the houses behind the existing dwelling. So it's not further back than that dwelling that Mr. Vandenberg is referencing in his letter. But I would like to add, if I could, I did speak with Mr. Vandenberg about that, his letter and his request for that setback. I just wanted to understand what he was hoping to achieve, because regardless of where the house is situated on these lots, there's still an MDS concern for him with any new barn he wants to construct. So he constructed one of his barns a few years ago and had to go through for a variance for MDS for that new barn. It was he redid the barn. He had to build a new one because of the new regulations. So he was required to go through the MDS for a variance for the MDS for that as well. He needed a variance for the location of that barn. So we talked about him moving forward, how to accommodate his potential development in the future. And we thought maybe we could look at a reciprocal zoning on his property that would give him relief for future MDS issues, just like we're giving these houses relief for future MDS issues. That is an option that we can do. The only problem I can see with that issue is that I think he would still be required to go for a variance because of where the barn is going to be located. He's not going to be able to meet the setbacks, and he's also not going to be able to meet the lot area. So whether we address the MDS for him right now, he's still going to need a minor variance for other problems on his property. You know, it's something we can look at with him and bring it back and try and figure it out. But I just want him, I know he's on the line, so I just want him to be aware that, yeah, there's still going to be a problem. There's still going to be a need for a zoning application, which as we discussed, opens him up to a potential appeal, because that's really at the end of the day what he's concerned about. So we could throw in the setback. It's not going to really make much of a difference from the MDS concerns.
All right, thank you. Councillor Ottens.
Thank you, through you. I'm curious, 8002. Now, when that house was built, did it meet the MDS requirements, or was a variance requested at that time too for that house? And if so, how was that allowed then, given that the farm was there first?
Through you, Mayor. So the zoning bylaw provides exemptions for existing lots of record that are under a certain size. So in that case, that's an existing lot that is under that size. It meets that criteria. So MDS is not required to be applied. So all the empty lots in Mapleton, most of the empty lots in Mapleton that are small, are exempt from MDS because it's assumed that the MDS was dealt with at the time that lot was created. Hence why in this case, we're asking for the MDS now, because this lot, it's being created through a lot line adjustment. It's new. So new lots being created have to go through the MDS exercise.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Craven, you have a question?
Yeah, just a comment, I guess. I think I could support this pretty easy if as long as these houses are going to be probably at least 100 feet back from the center of the road. I think I could go along with that. That'll put them back far enough that they'll avoid a lot of the noise that's going to go on around the barns when they're taking chickens out, putting chickens back in, so on.
Thank you, Councillor Craven. Now, Linda, there's a water course or a wetland or something that's in the middle of this. Or is that just tall grass? I don't know. From the picture, it looks like it might be a wetland. Is placing like I'm looking at the one on the far right, that takes up a lot of that property. Is placing a house somewhere in there going to be difficulty? And maybe Haley can chime into this one as well.
I'm not aware of any wetlands on these properties. I suspect that's just a bush area, but
Haley?
maybe the owner.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't believe, I mean, we try and show wetlands and if there was any zoning like environmental protection or anything on the property, but it's just zoned agricultural and country residential OP. So I don't believe there is any wetland, but yeah, maybe Tim could also speak to this.
Mr. Martin?
Hi, welcome, Mr. Mayor and Council. It is not a wetland. It is just an area where it needs a good tile and leaching out there. Steep hill, and some years the farmers work through it, and some years not because it's too wet, so it's okay. And in general, the Vandenberg's concern was not unexpected, and it's fair. We're okay with the setbacks that are required, and also if we need to make for our planning to say that no house shall be further closer to the road than the corner house, we're okay with that as well. But that can be just done when building permits are applied for and the site plan is done. So very understandable with the neighbor and the support of that.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. I can see if I was to purchase one of these lots, I'd want to be a little bit further away from the road anyway. So I'd be wanting to be back by 8004 more so with my property. So I can understand that need. Any other discussion from council members?
I have
Go
something
ahead,
yet.
Councilor Trottens.
I'm just curious, looking at now, there's also a farm on the other side, 7368. So for the first lot, lot A, would that have any bearing also MDS wise? Trying to place a house on that lot somewhere, getting MDS from both farms?
Linda?
Patty hopefully can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that is not a livestock facility on that property. It is used for, I think I don't know, Patty, if I remember talking to you about it, but it's not a livestock facility.
So we'll go to CBO right then.
Yeah.
Thank you,
thanks.
Mayor, through you. No, I don't believe there's any livestock on the adjacent property. We have been on the property and the old building was taken down. So at this point in time, I'd say there's no livestock on that property.
Thank you.
Okay, so to follow up,
Yes, go ahead.
so once a house is on lot A, then that farm will have some impediments if they did want to build a livestock barn in the future. Is that how it would work then?
Linda?
The lot is too small to have a livestock facility.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments from council? So now I will close this public meeting. Thank you, everyone, for attending this public meeting. The recommendation here at item 6.2 is that the planning report regarding ZBA 2021-18 and 19, Maude Group Inc. and 1054515 Ontario Inc. Concession 12 Maryborough, part lot 19, PCL 2, Concession 12, part lot 18 and part lot 19, PCL 3, 7372 and 7374 Wellington Road 11 be received for information. Mover, please. Council Craven, Council Douglas is the seconder. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, all opposed? Anybody opposed? We'll go reversed. Nobody opposed. That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is another public meeting under the Planning Act to hear comments from the public and agencies and to give consideration to an application ZBA 2021-20 for proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Subject lands are located at 6444 Yatton Sideroad, and the purpose and effect is to rezone the lands to allow a home industry. We will now receive information from the clerk. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff can confirm all regulatory notices were completed as per page 63 of the agenda package.
Thank you, sir. We'll now hear from the planner, Linda Redmond.
Thank you, Mayor. So this application before you is for your standard home industry. We've seen a number of them lately, which is a good thing. This one is for a new one that's being established on this lot. The parcel is just under 60 acres. It's not a huge farm, and it sits right on the outskirts of Wallenstein. It's actually right adjacent to the hamlet of Wallenstein, so it's very close to that area of town where there is a lot of home industries close together. What the applicants are proposing is to construct a 7,836 square foot building. They're also going to be building a 538 separate structure for their generator room. And the property is currently vacant. So they're also proposing a house and a small barn as well as part of this application. The home industry is for welding and other manufacturing of products. But they indicated in their application as well that they want to have some retail sales as well. And it's mostly farm related items, but it's not items that are made on site. They're items that will be brought in and sold. They indicated it's items like pasture fencing, some other fencing products, some feeding products, and that sort of thing. So there's some leeway and there's some opportunity to have a minimal amount of retail use on these on-farm diversified properties. But we need further clarification as to exactly what they want to sell and how and what that looks like, and how much of their floor area is dedicated to that use versus the manufacturing and the welding component. They've also indicated that they might have additional employees. Again, we need further clarification on that. And there is under the PPS guidelines, the area that's allowed to be used for this type of use is 2% of the lot area, which is, if you're dealing with a 100-acre farm, that's a considerable amount of land to a maximum of 1 hectare. So usually we don't have any issues with those because we're usually dealing with farms that are close to 100 acres. And the size of the building and the size of the area that's being dedicated for this use usually we don't have to worry about it too much because it meets it. In this case, because we're dealing with a 60-acre parcel, the area of operation, which includes your outdoor storage, your parking, your loading, your yard associated with the building, we have to include all of that. And I've done some quick calculations and it's really, really, really close to meeting the maximum size. So because of that, we have to nail down with them exactly the area. We have to nail down whether or not they're going to put a mezzanine in this building, because if they are, that could have to be included in the floor area as well. Again, with these other home industries, they're on such big lots that it really doesn't matter if they put a mezzanine in because they're still under the size criteria. But in this case, because we're dealing with such a tight number, we need more information on exactly the floor plan inside and what that's going to look like. So that's where this is at this point in time. I don't see any issues with the retail that they've indicated they're going to do, but again, I think we need more, specific clarification on that before we look at a bylaw, and we need to include that in the bylaw. Okay.
Thank you, Linda. Does the applicant, Mr. Martin, I see you online. Do you have any comments or further explanations, sir? You're on mute. There we go.
This is John.
Hi, John.
I'm from Wellington here. Solomon did this application for me. I guess I don't have much to say. I know the retail was mentioned. I think I sent an email after the fact to planning at Mapleton that we're not looking to have like a retail store. I just want to clarify that we're not the retail was put in there. I should have consulted with Solomon a little bit further on that, but it's we're not looking to have a retail store. It's more warehousing and a wholesale outlet. We'd like to maybe fulfill like online orders, but it mostly be a wholesale outlet and warehousing of these. My plan now would be the farm fence and that type of items. It's SMB manufacturing or farm supplies here right in Wallenstein. So it'd be an extension to that of those products, and selling them to our dealers and distributors, and then but not having an actual retail store. We're not asking for that. It's just a wholesale outlet. I did mention that the local farming community, with the product offering we have, it's attractive to them. So, but it's not that I'd want them like coming in as a store. Just they'd have to order ahead and pick up their order, or however that would be handled, but not an actual retail store.
Thank you for that explanation, John. Very helpful. Are there any comments from those in attendance? Please indicate so by and state your name and address for the record. We'll first hear from those in support of the zoning amendment. Anybody here wishing to speak in support of the zoning amendment? Anybody online wishing to speak in opposition of the zoning amendment? Yeah, we'll turn it over to council for questions and comments. Any questions, comments from council members? None seen. The public meeting, no, Council Craven.
Yeah, according to Linda's comments here, there would be an absolute limit on any expansion of this business. Is that right, Linda?
That's correct.
How many employees do you expect to have there, John?
I was thinking 2 beside who lives there.
Okay,
I would
thank
like
you.
to ask.
How many is he limited to, Linda?
2 off-site employees.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you. The public meeting is now concluded. Thank you for attending the public meeting. I do have a recommendation here that the planning report regarding ZBA 2021-20, the Matthews Place Inc. Concession 1, Part Lot 18, RP 61R 9614, Part Lots 9 to 11, 6444 Yatton Sideroad be received for information. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Douglas. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Martin and Mr. Bauman. And now we'll move on to 6.4, which is a consent application. I have a recommendation here that the Township of Mapleton Council support consent applications B 104-21 and B 105-21. Presented for lands described as part lots 16, 17, and 18, concession 1, with the following conditions: that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the local municipality, financial and otherwise, for the proper and orderly development of the subject lands, including but not limited to outstanding taxes. That the payment be made of a fee of $266 for a letter of clearance. That a copy of the deposited reference plan be submitted to the township. That driveway access be provided to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. That the width of the access under B 105-21 is widened to 15 meters of the entire length. That servicing can be addressed to satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. That the applicants provide a municipal drain reapportionment or mutual agreement as determined by the drainage superintendent as per the applicable township fees and charges bylaw. That zoning compliance is addressed to the satisfaction of the Township of Mapleton. That application B 104-21 is conditional on the approval of application B 105-21. And further, the council authorizes the planning and development coordinator to file with the secretary treasurer of the planning and land division committee of the county of Wellington a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. And I need a mover, please. Councillor Douglas, Councillor Craven, Linda Redmond, do you have anything to add to this? I need a break from speaking.
No, unless the council has any questions, just in case you didn't notice, this is actually adjacent to the application you just heard. The actual lot line adjustment that will be the access to the farm is on the property that of the application you just heard. So they're taking a little strip of land off of Mr. Bauman's lands for this.
Make a long driveway.
Make a long driveway, because they
Right
can't
on.
get a driveway off of 86.
No, they
Also,
can't.
no. The other thing I just want to point out is we are asking for them to widen that a little bit. Currently, they're showing it at 9 meters. We've asked that maybe we'd like to see it at 15 meters, which is 50 feet. Only because it's a long driveway, and my understanding is that there's potentially going to be another home industry built back there at some point when they get that farm up and going. So, I think 50 feet is more maybe appropriate for two-way traffic on that. So I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to bring that to council's attention.
Perfect. Thank you, Linda. So questions or comments from council then on this? Councilor Craven?
As I read that over, I thought that's not a very wide laneway, because if it's only that width, it's going to be way too narrow really for a fire truck or an emergency vehicle to get in there. And as I read on, I saw that in one of the conditions, it's going to be 50 feet wide. So I don't think I have any trouble supporting this.
Thank you, Councilor Craven. Anybody opposed? Then that's carried. Thank you. That completes our planning applications. And we'll move on to back to council and item number 7, delegations. We don't have any. Minutes from committees. We don't have any. Moving on to item 9.1, which is the building department report. The recommendation here that I have is that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information the building department report BD 2022-01 dated January 11th, 2022 regarding the December month end and year to date numbers. Mover, please. Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Douglas. And I know I talked to Patty today. The report really speaks for itself. Lots of good information there. Boy, the group has been busy, and our community has been building like crazy back in 2021, and it's continuing on and so far in 2022. Questions, comments from council, if there are any? Don't see anybody opposed to this recommendation. That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to recreation. We have here item 9.2.1, remote recreation programming. The recommendation here that the Township of Mapleton receive recreation report 2022-01 dated January 11th, 2022 regarding remote recreation programming for information. Then I'm going to have that moved by Councillor Craven, second by Councillor, let's go with Douglas. And we'll turn it over to Amy Gross.
Good afternoon, or good evening, sorry. Through you, Mayor, the Recreation Department decided that we obviously needed to quickly shift and take some of our programming online, which is part of one of our goals anyways that we want to do this year. We're wanting to have a stronger online presence with our rec department. So we have put together some activity kits that will be going out at the end of this week, where there's all kinds of treats, activities, crafts, and things for the children and families to be doing. We're highlighting our trails, and also where we can find skating rinks in the community, and just highlighting some great things that are already here in Mapleton that are accessible to people during this time when our facilities are not open. So we're just encouraging people to get outside and be active, and we really wanted to reach out to all of the kids and bring them some fun things to do over the next little while everybody's sort of transitioning through what's going to be happening over the next few weeks as the new variant spreads.
Thank you, Amy. And I see my surprise when I came into the office. I'm assuming what this is the kit for the kids for me to go through and to look at, and I'll be looking through that later on. I'm excited to go through that and share what I find in there on video for you to send out to the group on social media. So we open it up for questions or comments then. Councillor Ottens.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Davidson. Just curious, what was the uptake on these kits this time around?
Yeah, so at this point, we're sitting at about 75.
Okay. And is it one per family or one per child?
Per child.
Okay.
And Amy, did you make up how many? 100?
Yeah, and we are happy to accommodate however many that need to be made at this point, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you. Further comments and questions? Seeing none, we have the recommendation moved and seconded. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Amy. Moving on to items 10.1, approval of bylaws. Bylaw number 2022-001 being a bylaw to establish the fees and charges for various services provided by the municipality except for water and wastewater, and repeal bylaw number 2021-002 except Schedule K and any amendments thereto. Is the bylaw, that's what we're looking at. And let me just, sorry here, approval of bylaws. I better go to the actual recommendation. That the bylaw is numbered 2022-001 being a bylaw to establish fees and charges for the various services provided by the municipality except for water and wastewater. Repeal bylaw 2021-002 except Schedule K and the amendments thereto. And 2022-002 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2010-080 being a bylaw for the Township of Mapleton, and 2022-003 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2010-080 being a zoning bylaw for the Township of Mapleton. He's hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed with a corporate seal. So just for council, 2022-001, a bylaw to establish fees and charges. What has been done is we have removed the water and wastewater. We will have a special meeting about that probably next week. I'll reach out to each one of you to see what a good date is. Then that special meeting will talk only about water and wastewater, and our finance director will give us an update and a little report, and we'll just discuss water and wastewater at that special meeting. So right now we want to get in place all the other fees and charges that were in that bylaw except for water and wastewater. So I need a mover and a seconder, please, for all of these three bylaws. Councillor Douglas, second by Councillor Craven, and we'll open it up for questions and comments at this point. Is there anything to add or any comments? All right. So anybody opposed? And that is carried. Moving on down to item number 11, which we have correspondence for council's information. And note, council's direction, sorry. Recommendation 11.1 is whereas the Economic Developers Council of Ontario has decided to reschedule the 2022 EDCO conference from February to April 5th to 11th, or to 5th to 7th, 2022. And whereas the new dates do not interfere with a Mapleton Council meeting, and whereas Mapleton Council had a resolution 2021-26-18 agreed to reschedule their regular meeting of council from Tuesday, February 8th to Monday, February 7th. Therefore, Township Mapleton Council now resolves to convene its first meeting in February at the regularly scheduled date of Tuesday, February 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. So we're just going back to what we initially had because we don't have the EDCO anymore. So a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Rotten, second by Councillor Craven. Perfect. Anybody opposed? All right, that's moved, then seconded and approved. Now we'll go to item 12, correspondence for council's information. We have here a number of items. There is the first one, 12.1, which came from MP John Nader regarding the Canada Summer Jobs Program. As usual, we will be applying for some. We don't know how many applications summer students will be taking on, but we will be doing some applications for that to get some funding. Anybody wish to speak to any other item on this list? All right, and we'll move down to item number 13. Do we have any notices of motion today? And we'll go down to item number 14, the notice of intention to pass a bylaw. This is North Wellington News, December 30th. That was about the fees and charges. And now we'll move down to item number 15, which is other business. And one of the items we want to bring up in other business is going to be about the water tower. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mattina to talk about that. Mr. Mattina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, to you and council. As everyone knows, the water tower is progressing well. We've finished the vertical concrete lifts, 15 8-foot lifts, and we're getting ready to, once things mobilize again in the next week or so, and weather permitting, we're going to be starting to construct the tank. And with that, the tank gets constructed on the ground, of course, and then gets painted. And it's expected that the tank will be in vertical position around March or April of 2022. So with that, the question has come up about the colors on the tank. And there's been some concerns that we've been informed of by our consultant that the colors that were chosen by resolution of council back in April of 2021 perhaps are not the best colors to consider, because historically those colors after time give the inference of a rust formation. So we're asking council to allow staff to go back and relook at the colors and work out something more palatable, I guess, for the colors for the tank.
Sounds like a good idea. We don't want to
Hold on, Councilor Craven. Councilor Craven, you're out of order.
Okay.
Thank you. So council, before we can actually send this back to staff, we have to reopen a decision that we actually made back in April. From discussions with the CAO and with Mr. Mattina, from the consultant's point of view, if we go with the colors we've chosen now, we'd have to repaint that a lot sooner than we want to. And we know that painting is costing a lot of money. So instead of 20 years at the line, it might need repainted in 3 to 5 years. So we certainly don't want to endure that cost. But we need to have it reopened by council in order to move this forward back to staff to go back with some colors. So I do have a motion here, but I'll need a complete, we're going to actually, yeah, so I'm going to need a mover and a second for this, and we're going to need 2/3 vote to reopen this, which means that we need to have all 4 votes as a yes. So I'm just going to read the motion here that whereas Township of Mapleton Council adopted the following resolution 2021-09-05 at its regular meeting of council on Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. That Township of Mapleton Council received Economic Development Report ED 2021-04 dated April 27, 2021 regarding water tower design public survey results. And further, that Township of Mapleton Council provided staff direction on the choice of water tower design as recommended in the report. And the Township of Mapleton Council now hereby moves to reconsider said resolution and further direct staff to report back to council with an alternative design color scheme. So knowing that we don't want to have to repaint this, we need to have the consultant come back with some information. So I need this this moved and seconded before we can discuss it further. Moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Douglas. So any discussion from council on this other business and this recommendation? Councillor Craven, you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, we certainly don't want our water tank to look like a rust bucket. That's for sure. It doesn't look very tasty if you drink it out of a rusty bucket.
You got that. I don't drink out of rusty buckets myself. Anything else from Councillor Douglas, Councillor Ottens? So I'm going to ask for hands on this. Anybody opposed to reopening this? Perfect. Then we have the 2/3 vote, Mr. Clerk, to reopen this. That's carried. And moving on, is there any other business besides Mr. Martinez's other business? I don't see any. We do not have a closed session. The confirmatory bylaw is item 17.1. The recommendation is that the bylaw number 2022-004, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council of the corporation of the Township of Mapleton, be hereby read a first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with a corporate seal. Anybody opposed? Oh, sorry, moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Douglas. Anybody opposed? Perfect, that is carried. Moving to item number 18. See, Mr. Richardson is showing up his face on the camera now, putting his hair in place. I wish I had some hair to put in place, and we'll adjourn. Thank you, everyone. And we can stop recording.